Hello, welcome to the 2022 Division 19 President-elect Candidates Town Hall. I'm Bruce Crow, Division 19 President-elect and Chair of the Elections Committee. I'll be moderating the Town Hall. Each year around mid-April, APA conducts the elections for division officers. In 2022, division voters will be able to cast their ballots between April 15th and May 16th. We are recording this virtual town hall with our two president-elect candidates, Dr. Joe Troiani and Dr. William Brim. They will introduce themselves in a moment and have a chance to let division voters hear their views. Candidates were provided questions ahead of time and will respond to questions within a 3-minute time limit. They'll take turns giving the first response. By mutual agreement, Joe Troiani will introduce himself first, and Bill Brim will be the first to answer question number 1. Joe, will you introduce yourself first, please?
Good. Again, greetings. My name is Joe Troiani, and I've been working in the profession of mental health or psychiatry mental health for the last 51 years. I started out as a beginning. My last 2 years of undergraduate, I was a psychiatric tech while completing my bachelor's degree. In the years since, I've worked at the Veterans Administration Hospital. I've worked in community mental health. I went on to become a program director for an inpatient and outpatient substance abuse program. And for about a 5-year period, I was actually the administrator and CEO of psychiatric hospitals. That all changed 28 years ago when I became director of a public health-based comprehensive community mental health center. I have a staff of close to 80 providing outpatient and crisis community mental health services through public health, a position which I will be retiring from probably within the coming year. I also have a second role. I'm the founding director of military psychology at Adler University. I hold a position of associate professor of clinical psychology, and it was at Adler where I developed the military clinical psych emphasis within a doctorate program, a program that's now going on its 12th year. Later on, I also developed a master's in program. These programs are going into their 12th year, and we've had close to 20 students come through the program on HPSB scholarships. So I've had the opportunity to train students that are going to become psychologists in the Army, Navy, as well as Air Force. The program has received a number of recognized awards, including Innovative Program of the Year from the Mental Health Association Illinois, and from the American Red Cross, the Heroes Military Program, a program that I'm very proud of. I've also served in the military, 32 and a half years in the Naval Reserves. I came in enlisted, worked my way up to the rank of E5, became commissioned as a Naval Intelligence Officer. I live in Chicago, but my assignment was primarily in Washington, D.C. at the Defense Intelligence Agency, where I had an opportunity to get a taste of operational psychology and, of course, National Intelligence University.
Thank you, Joe. Bill, will you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Brim, and it is an honor to be here today and to be running for Division 19 President. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I completed my doctorate at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This was back in the day when it was called Nova University, for those of you who are Shark alumni or students. Going back a few steps, I became interested in the military in middle school. My great-grandfather was a World War I and World War II veteran and the Tennessee State Commander of the Veterans of Foreign War, and he really influenced my decision. I joined the Civil Air Patrol and then Army ROTC. I took part in a program in the 80s that allowed me to attend basic training at Fort Jackson prior to starting undergrad at the University of Tennessee. Those miserable 9 weeks in Columbia, South Carolina helped me decide to go on to graduate school and to join the Air Force. I completed my internship at Wolford Hall in the Air Force in 1997, and I completed a postdoctoral fellowship at Wolford Hall in clinical health psychology. I was on active duty in the Air Force, and ironically, my first assignment out of internship was at Shaw Air Force Base, right outside of Columbia, South Carolina. So I made it full circle. I left active service in 2007. I joined the Department of Defense's Center for Deployment Psychology, first as a deployment psychologist, providing training to interns and early career active duty psychologists on deployment experiences and psychological health issues related to war. I am now the executive director of the center, where we train over 10,000 active duty and civilian behavioral health professionals annually. I'm also an associate professor in the Department of Medical and Clinical Psychology at the Uniformed Services University. I maintain a small private practice, and I specialize in the treatment of trauma and the treatment of sleep disorders, and I consult on courts martial. I am currently the Division 19 APA Convention Committee Chair and the chair of the division's Continuing Education Committee, which has given me a great opportunity to meet and work with many of you and has deepened my appreciation of all that the division has to offer. I look forward to continuing to work with the great members of Division 19, and I appreciate this opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now, I'll ask you the first question. Bill, why do you want to be president, and what attributes do you bring to the position that would make you successful?
Why do I want to be president? Well, at first, I really liked this question, and then not so much, because every answer I thought of kind of sounded lame. I'm the best person for the job. No, I think there are those, a lot of our members who would make excellent presidents, obviously, including Joe. And I thought, well, I'm the most experienced person for the job. Well, no, there's also a lot of other folks who have great experience as psychologists and as division members who would make great division presidents. And I think we will see many of them in the coming years. I've seen just in the last few years an amazing effort to bring out new leaders in the division. And I think we really have a great future. The reality is that for me, I think in part, I gravitate towards leadership roles. I was the battalion commander of my high school Army ROTC, and I was then selected as division commander over 26 Memphis public schools my senior year. That was in the last century. I was treasurer of my graduate school student government, flight commander in commissioned officer training, first psychologist selected as an executive officer for a flag MTF commander and TRICARE CEO. And now I'm the executive director of the Center for Deployment Psychology. I sought each of these roles, and I learned, and I had some failures, and I developed as a leader in each of these roles. By nature, I'm a pretty shy person, painfully, awkwardly shy as a teenager. I know that may be hard to believe, but until I was forced into a leadership role in my first job at McDonald's and then in ROTC, those roles taught me to be willing to step out in front, to see a goal on or over the horizon and to navigate towards that point. I like to listen. Big surprise, I'm a psychologist. I believe that leaders succeed by listening, understanding and providing a path to meet the shared goals of a team. And I have that ability and that experience. I want to be president because I personally want to continue to actively engage in the mission of Division 19. I believe I can be an effective steward of the division by listening to our committee chairs, our leaders, our members, and by supporting their efforts and ideas. As evidence of this commitment, the first thing I did when I considered running for president was to reach out to over 24 of our members, leaders, past presidents, and committee chairs, and listen to their advice and their goals and their roadblocks that they're encountering. I believe that one of the main responsibilities of leaders is to remove barriers and roadblocks in order to allow people to succeed in their goals. I want to support creative ways, and I want to encourage active engagement in our members, and I want to focus the efforts of the division towards a shared set of strategic goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Joe, why do you want to be president? And what attributes do you bring to the position that would make you successful?
I'm very much driven by my passion for the military, those who have served in the military, veterans, as well as those who are serving. And it's something that led me to develop the military psychology emphasis over at Adler University. And talk about bringing in a military psychology program into a graduate school that's focused in on such issues as social justice, social action. And you could understand the pushback that I was getting when at the same time Abu Ghraib was coming to the surface, but managed to work with the faculty, presenting our side of the argument, showing them how we can contribute, and the importance of providing psychological services to those who have served, as well as those who are currently in the military. As a result, we've got a successful program, which I'm currently the founding director, overseeing responsibility of 2 programs. But leadership is something that I really learned in the military. I've always had leadership roles, being a hospital CEO, recently director of behavioral health services for the county. And it's really helped me to learn how to be a collaborative worker, to help develop vision, to help develop direction. And as pointed out earlier, working with people, providing that leadership ability. I had the chance to really expand that role in my professional work, as well as my work with the Illinois Psychological Association. In 2003, I became part of the executive committee, eventually becoming the president of IPA in 2016 and 2017. And even within my role, I was able to create within the Illinois Psychological Association a military psychology section. I think we were one of the first sections. And again, that was done through collaboration, cooperation, and working together. And my military skills, as well as my association skills, as well as my professional skills in the area of program administration and management, I think gives me the right skill set to go ahead and bring this to an organization that is Division 19, that I have a lot of admiration for, since really being introduced to the organization a little less than 10 years ago.
Thank you, Joe. Next question, Joe. What do you consider as the biggest challenges facing Division 19?
Looking at challenges, probably one of the first things to look at is the critical voices that are out there regarding military psychology. And that, of course, is with some of the other divisions within the American Psychological Association. Division 19 does a lot of good things that I've become more aware of as I've gotten more involved in the organization. And I think a big piece of what needs to be done is getting the word out there regarding the good that Division 19 does for those who are serving, as well as those who have served. So it's really the selling of military psychology. Again, I think that's a very important piece. The selling of who we are, what we're all about. And I think another piece is addressing the stigma of being a military psychologist. And again, I've seen this pushback among my colleagues in various institutions, and especially in recent, as a result of some of the recent wars and conflict, and of course, the scandal of Abu Ghraib, which in many ways has been a bit of a setback, as well as an opportunity for those who dislike military psychology to basically use it as leverage for the disestablishment to some extent. I think we have an opportunity to grow. The introduction of military psychology into curriculums, graduate school curriculums, as well as undergrad curriculums is a big challenge. And it's also a way of introducing people to what we are about as a profession. Obviously, there's challenges in recruiting and retention of membership. The student section would need to continue to get full attention and support for anyone stepping into the presidency, and also to developing the future leadership, which Project has been embarked on to develop potential future leadership for Division 19 and to continue that and support that in its entirety. So there are a lot of good things happening. And I think the important thing is not to let that fall by the wayside and coming in to support those initiatives, to support those endeavors, so that Division 19, one of the oldest sections, is better known and better respected and can be a conduit for introducing people to military psychology or to services of those who have served in the military.
Thank you. Bill, what do you consider as the biggest challenges facing Division 19?
Can I say everything that Joe just said, and I yield the remainder of my time? No, I'm kidding. I do think we have a lot of similarities. To start off with, I feel like I need to say that in my opinion, like Joe, the division is really moving in a positive direction. We've set up the foundation to provide some financial autonomy from APA and to give us a platform to independently support education, training, research, community and professional engagement, and programs that advance the science and practice of military psychology. We're making better use of technology to communicate with our members. We have a new website, and we are working on ways to improve the collaboration and efficiency of the division by purchasing a knowledge management software. And we're establishing the position of Chief Science Officer to better support our members engaged in research and to serve as a liaison to the APA Science Directorate. And these are just a few of the efforts that the division are addressing our challenges and looking to the future already. I think a challenge we will always face is defining what and who military psychology is, as opposed to us being defined by a few in and out of the APA who would maybe prefer to see us as inseparable from DoD policies, supporting torture, generally brainwashing people into the nefarious military culture and things like that. I think that for some people, we have been defined by Abu Ghraib and the Hoffman Report, and that has affected recruiting in some ways. I think that we always have to be on alert for those who would seek to define us, but that we should also move on in our efforts. We have to take the offensive in defining military psychology and what we do, who we are, and the contributions of military psychology to the field. Dr. Olson's I Am Military Psychology Initiative is a great idea, and we're going to make that a focus of the APA convention in August this year, and we're going to highlight our members and their contributions. We need to continue to define and improve our relationship with APA. I believe that relationship is improving in leaps and bounds with the efforts of Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Stahl and our Council of Representative members and our presidential trio. I mean, look, we just had Frank Worrell, the APA president, as a keynote speaker at the IMTA conference earlier this month. An APA president probably wouldn't have come anywhere that close to us a few years ago, but we do need to continue to engage APA. Communication continues to be a challenge, both internally and between our diverse members and to the public. Again, we're in a good place with our social media efforts, with our podcast, with our new website. But we may need to be coming up to a point where we want to have more consistent, perhaps even paid part-time help to ensure consistent, ongoing, branded and coordinated communication efforts. We have a significant knowledge base within the division. Just look at the outpouring of resources that came to our call for support for Ukraine psychologists. We need to ensure we have a way to effectively, consistently and in a timely manner communicate that knowledge to our members and to the public. And finally, I think membership engagement is an ongoing challenge. I think we need to seek new ways and opportunities to actively engage our members. And I suspect we'll talk about that more shortly. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. So Bill, next question. What is your vision for the future of Division 19? And what are the top 3 achievements you would like to accomplish during your tenure as president?
Okay, I only get 3, right? No, just kidding. I think that's probably more than enough. So our members are military psychologists and psychologists in public service. They're civilian psychologists working in communities and universities. We are a very diverse community, and we serve in a variety of settings, doing a wide array of jobs, all supporting the advancement of military psychology. Just recently, I took on the job of gathering resources, as I mentioned, from the division to support psychologists in the Ukraine. I was impressed by the response. We had resources and offers to volunteer from nearly 100 of our members and their agencies. The breadth and depth of the knowledge and abilities of our membership was amazing, and they quickly coalesced around this opportunity. It's my belief that there will be an increase in the need for our knowledge and experience in the coming years. Our ability to communicate the wide array of our knowledge and experience will be key over the next 3 years and beyond. We can't make the mistake again of not being prepared to address the psychological health and resilience needs of service members and their families. 20 years ago, we were unprepared to meet the psychological health needs of military members, not because the knowledge didn't exist, it partially at least it did, but because that knowledge was not effectively disseminated. It's the reason the APA lobbied Congress to fund the Center for Deployment Psychology to address that clinical training gap. I'd like to see the division improve its ability to disseminate our knowledge base of our members to the military, to military leaders, and to the public. I'd like to see the division continue to grow as a hub of information on a range of military psychology issues. APA came to us for help with the Ukraine, and I'd like to see that trend continue. I'd like to see us to continue and become a go-to resource for leaders and decision makers about military psychological science. To do this, I think we need consistent communication and cross-discipline engagement. As I alluded to before, we have a great website, and that should be our main hub of information sharing. First, I'd like to build the ability of the website to disseminate our knowledge by publicizing our podcast, hosting webinars recorded by our members, and posting resources that are easily available and regularly updated. Second, I'd like to develop a continuing education series for our members and for interested stakeholders that becomes a platform for sharing the knowledge of our members. I'd like to define continuing education as more than just clinical CEs for licensure, but to start thinking of continuing education as a way for all of our members to continue to learn about advancements in their areas of interest and disseminate their knowledge to others within the division and to the public. Third, I'd like to talk more about new ways to communicate opportunities to actively engage in the division, to use the tools we have like the Google Suite and the website to more clearly gather and convey engagement opportunities to our members, and to talk about new ways the division members could engage with our membership and with the community, such as through a mentor program and through an ambassadors program, which I can talk some more about shortly. Thanks.
Thank you. Joe, what is your vision for the future of Division 19? And what are the top 3 achievements you would like to accomplish during your tenure as president?
Probably number one would be achieve financial sustainability. I've been involved in fundraising. I was chief financial officer for an organization years ago called Comic Relief with HBO. We raised close to $86 million. And part of that is also looking at the development of various revenue streams. With this, we would be able to expand what we do, get the necessary administrative support, and grow the organization. A second goal would be, again, letting the professions know what military psychology division is about. We have a really rich history, going back to World War I, going back to the OSS. As a naval intelligence officer, I was well aware of the contributions that psychologists gave to our community, as well as their involvement in World War II with the organization of the Office of Strategic Services. So promoting that rich history, which really establishes who we are. Yes, we have a kind of a blip with Abu Ghraib in that period of time, but the contributions have been great and very much expansive. But part of promoting the history is also branding what we're about, the messaging of military psychology. And this also helps to increase our visibility within the division, those who are working in our profession, other healthcare professionals, and the general public. I've always thought of military cultural competency for professionals working in the fields, and that's starting to gain some traction. And I think there's no better go-to organization than Division 19 to help those in the healthcare professions who are working with veterans or working directly or indirectly with the military. But again, getting financial stability, development of revenue sources, looking at the branding and imaging, and building on our rich history are all part of a long-term view of growing the organization. And again, supporting those initiatives, which are actually already in place, many of which are starting to bear fruit.
All right, thank you. Next question, Joe. Do you see gaps in Division 19's policies, actions, or structure regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion? And if so, how would you address those gaps?
That's an area that I'm not as familiar with. I know the whole issue of equity, diversity is something that even at the academic level that we're looking at struggling with. A very important step in this is having an open dialogue. And I think there are other divisions that are also struggling with the same issues that we could learn from, get direction from, and maybe work collaboratively with. But this would take a commitment, initiative by the division. Kind of as we say in the Navy, it would need to be an all hands effort. Now, one of the things that's already occurring, the mentorship program, is a great program to bring in people with diverse backgrounds and diverse orientations. So some of the ground floor activities already in place. And again, it's a matter of time before we see the fruits of this. But it also might involve us bringing in outside consultants. Even at a graduate school that prides itself on diversity and equity, we found ourselves needing to bring in outside advisors and consultants that could take a fresh look at the organization and could make recommendations and possibly put in place a process that we are then becoming more equitable, that we are more diverse, and that we really, not only talk the talk, but we're able to walk the talk.
Thank you. Bill, do you see gaps in Division 19's policies, actions, or structure regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion? And if so, how would you address those gaps?
Thanks, Bruce. Policies and structures, probably not so much. Action, maybe. First things first, like Joe said, we have an outstanding diversity committee under the leadership of Brandy Walker. I've had the opportunity to work with Brandy both on diversity training during the APA convention and in supporting the diversity committee presentations with CE credits. As I mentioned earlier, I reached out to committee chairs before deciding to run, and Brandy and I had a great conversation about their goals. I will wholeheartedly support and advocate for any recommendations that the diversity committee makes as we continue to expand the diversity and inclusivity of the division and of military psychology. As the chair of the CE committee, I've made diversity a key component of every training that we have provided CE for. We're not just looking for lip service, but for actual thoughtful engagement of diversity and cultural questions in all of our CE efforts for the division. I believe it's time to move past just diversity training. I believe that diversity training remains important and should continue to evolve, but I think it's time to talk more in terms of actual engagement in diversity efforts by the division. What are we doing to especially engage a more diverse future for the division? The efforts last year in collaboration with Division 44 to release a joint statement in support of the executive order ending the ban on transgender people serving in the military is a great example. But diversity is not fire and forget. It's not train and forget. You have to constantly engage and commit. We can't just say, oh, we gave you this opportunity. We gave you this opportunity. We gave you this leadership position. Good luck. No, the reality is you earned this leadership position. You deserve this leadership opportunity. And what are we going to do to make sure there's mentorship and guidance as easily available for you as it has been in the past? We need to provide that same level of support to anyone that gets a leadership position in order to succeed. Further, we need to think not only about the division, but about military psychology as a whole. We can use our members to engage students, for example, from historically Black colleges and universities. We can set up a division ambassador program where our members have an opportunity to actively engage in a long-term goal for the division of changing the diversity of military psychology. Black and Latinx psychologists are in the minority in the field as a whole. What if we actively engage those populations in grad school or even college and high school to share the benefits of being a military psychologist? Decades from now, that would result in better, more diverse field altogether. So we have to ask, what are we doing to make true diversity a reality and not just an ideal? I think we all agree that true diversity benefits us all. Doing more than lip service to diversity is hard, and it takes an ongoing effort. And I think the division is on the right track. Thanks.
Thank you. Now for the next question, Bill. How can Division 19 best advocate for and support the wide range of professional practice among its members? Are there specific research, clinical, consulting, or other advocacy priorities you intend to address?
Sure. As I alluded to earlier, I worry that there is a divide and a bit of a stovepiping among the disciplines within the division. I think we have to look for opportunities to engage in cross-disciplinary communication. We need to use our existing platforms like the Research Symposia series that Joe and Adler University host, the Advocacy Summit that Stephen Bowles and I host with the Catholic University and CDP and the DCPA, to ensure that we're engaging members from across the division and include multidisciplinary positions and all multidisciplinary presentations in all of our programs. This year at the APA convention, I'm implementing a panel discussion of members from across the division that represent the wide range of professional practices among our members in order to educate us all on what is going on and what is being worked on across the division. I think the new Chief Science Officer is a great opportunity to find places that we can engage. I will work with the Chief Science Officer to ensure that the research that's being done in the division has a platform for dissemination through continuing education and webinars. The division should be a resource for our members. If you're a researcher looking for platforms to translate your research into practice or to inform others, we should be able to provide that. As I said earlier, I want to more broadly define continuing education and develop programming that highlights the entire work of the division beyond just the clinical CE, and to bring in speakers of interest to all members of the division. Why can't we offer CE on emerging methodologies in research? Or why can't we bring in Mitch Prinstein, the APA Chief Science Officer, to do a webinar for our members? At USU, we have over a dozen centers in different schools as well. Too often, we don't know what each other's doing. We've worked hard to find opportunities to, at the minimum, know each other's work, and at best to collaborate and partner. I believe we can do the same in the division and better. And what benefits one group benefits us all.
Thank you. Joe, how can Division 19 best advocate for and support the wide range of professional practice among its members? Are there specific research, clinical, consulting, or other advocacy priorities you intend to address?
I think it's important to bring these various specialties or specializations together. And a way of doing it, one way of doing it is through the Regional Research Symposium. We've had 3 so far in 19, 20, and 21. And I would continue with this and in fact, further expand them. And this is where you could bring in representation from the national security side, the clinical side, the human factors engineering side. It's also a way of introducing the various aspects of military psychology to other military psychologists who have specializations. Again, we're looking at doing this for the 2021 RSS, which will be in September of 2022. But these continuing education programs, these symposiums, would have the opportunity to present an entire variety of research. I always reflect on the Division 19 meeting I attended, where we had a panel presentation on the deep space program. And that was a fascinating program. And my brother is an astronomer, is a specialist in Mars, and he almost fell off his chair when he heard about the program. But there are some emerging areas that I think need to be highlighted. Another vehicle for doing this would be the think tanks. We've talked about a moral injury think tank, an academic think tank, and I think in expanding these think tanks and having interdisciplinary involvement would be a way of engaging membership of the division and contributing to the visibility of these sectors within Division 19. Another area I think that's really important is recommending models for curriculums at the undergraduate level, if I may be bold, as well as the graduate level, as including the doctorate level. To bring together these sections or the stovepipes and basically say, let's look at developing what would the Introduction to Military Psychology course look like at the undergraduate level? What would it look like as a course in IO, or a course in a curriculum in research, or a curriculum in clinical psychology? At the same time, we're introducing this to individuals that have an interest and might pursue a field, might pursue a specialization within that particular field. Another way of engaging is with the crisis response effort. Yes, we've had COVID-19. We currently have the war in the Ukraine. A crisis response group made up of the various sections within Division 19, again, is another way of bringing people in with various expertises and addressing whatever the crisis issue might be. And then finally, again, bringing people together to help define what military cultural competency is for the profession, for the field behavioral health, as well as for the healthcare field.
Thank you. Joe, the next question. Division 19 member engagement tends to cluster at student, early career, and late career. What would you do to maintain member engagement across the career span of military psychologists?
I think what's really important is that mid to late career military psychologists could have a very important role in terms of recruiting, mentoring, and getting the word out there. There's a lot of wisdom. There's a great deal of experience with our mid and late career psychologists. They're also in a position of providing leadership in the think tanks that we could further expand upon as well as develop. They could have a critical role also in helping developing curriculum and courses in this area. I think there also needs to be special attention paid to active duty or reserve military psychologists making a transition from the military to the civilian world. There's a lot that they bring with them. And, just as at the state level, we're looking at psychologists moving on to retirement, I think there needs to be something like that for the person who is retiring after 20 years or plus, or even the individual who's completed a tour and they might be still early career or mid-career, and again, making the transition. I've had the opportunity to talk with psychologists in the Chicagoland area who were active duty military, and finding their role, finding their fit, and making a transition, which it can be difficult at times, especially when you're used to a particular culture that is military culture, and now going into the civilian side, being it working not-for-profit institutions or being entrepreneurs with private practice and consultation. Just a side note, the ones that go into private practice and consultation tend to have the least difficulty in terms of making that transition versus going into more traditional institutions that are non-military, with the exception of the VA.
All right, thank you. Bill, Division 19 member engagement tends to cluster at student, early career, and late career. What would you do to maintain member engagement across the career span of military psychologists?
You know, we've been trying to crack the code on that challenge for a while, right? Where do the mid-career folks go? We have great students, we have great early career engagement, we have student awards, we have early career awards, we have lifetime achievement awards, but we don't have any mid-career awards, right? I mean, I'm kidding, obviously. We've recognized some great some great achievements by mid-year, by mid-career psychologists with the Ulaner and the Gersony and Nichols Awards, for example. But maybe we need a specific award for mid-career psychologists. We could call it the Overworked and Underpaid Award or something like that. Look, these psychologists who have gotten into their careers and have maybe built their own networks and have different needs than students or early career folks. One of the first things I did as I was deciding to run for president was to reach out to the student affairs and early career psychologist committees. I met with them and I heard what they're working on and what their goals and their needs are. They're the future mid-career members, right? And they're the ones that have some great ideas about the way they're engaging the next level of members. The mid-career folks are ideal mentors for ECPs and for the students, and we need to support those committees in their efforts to identify mid-career members so that they can engage with them. So we need to start with a better mechanism to identify our mid-career members. Then we need to highlight the fact that membership and supervision are the best ways that the experience of mid-career psychologists benefits the division. I think we need to better define what is being a mentor means, what's involved, how much time does it take, what is and how does the mentor benefit as well. We need to do a webinar or a training on mentorships so that people know how to engage each other in that way. We need to use our website and our G Suite to develop and maintain a list of members and their areas of interest and their availability and interest in being members. If we want them to engage, we need to make clear, easy opportunities for them to do so. Most of us want to engage, but we have to make the ask clear and we have to make engaging for these members, for these very busy members. We need to make sure that there are also benefits for the mid-career members. I think a big benefit would be the broader continuing education opportunities that I mentioned earlier. I'd like to make sure that we keep a good read on what mid-career members need and effectively in order to effectively continue their career and to work with and get ongoing mentorship from advanced career professionals. I recently had a mid-career psychologist reach out to me to talk about new job opportunities. I think the division and our members should be a network that can be accessed for career transitions and for advice. And I fear that we're not formally seen as that now.
Thank you. Next question, Bill. What do you see as Division 19's role within the larger APA?
Oh, great. Easy question now. Our role within the APA is complicated, isn't it? I think that in the past, the APA has failed to understand the true role and nature of the military. And I think that too often they confabulate the military with military psychologists and Division 19 and its members, and they lump us all together. I think our role within APA is to define who we are and stop letting some within the APA define military psychology based on their disagreements with the policies of the US military and the necessary role of the military and national security. Historical case in mind, APA banned all DoD advertising in all its publications, which significantly affected our credibility and impacted military psychology recruiting and affected the impression that potential military psychologists have of military psychology as a field in our division. Why? Because the APA in 1992 advocated for the ban and a ban on don't ask, don't tell policies without considering the impact that had on our division on the field of military psychology. I didn't agree with the DoD policy, but the overtly prescriptive, I think, knee-jerk reaction that APA seems to have towards military psychology sometimes gets lumped in with military policies and is problematic. But when was this ban lifted? In 2016, when Division 19 worked with Division 44 to reverse the advertising ban following the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We have to be actively engaged with APA. Honestly, I left APA following the convention in 2007 in San Francisco. At that convention, there was a protest outside simulating some of the alleged torture and some of the issues that were going on at Abu Ghraib at the time. And the position, both outside and inside the convention, which I attended in uniform, I felt unsupported and unheard by APA. I rejoined APA 7 years ago. Maybe my reaction was knee-jerk too, but I believe our relationship with APA is improving. I know that APA is a big tent, and when you see a big tent, sometimes you should expect a big circus. But at the end of the day, it's better to be inside the tent attempting to influence the circus than outside whinging about it. I think as a division, we have to engage in continuous advocacy within APA in order to proactively define ourselves and our roles and the beliefs of our members. And I think we have to, and we need to maintain, we need to maintain strong voices on the Council of Representatives. I also think that we need to ensure our autonomy by supporting and continuing to grow the Military Psychology Foundation.
Thank you. Joe, what do you see as Division 19's role within the larger APA?
Okay, building off of what some of what Bill was talking about, I think there's two levels. The development of working relationships with the leadership of APA, and I think that visibility is absolutely key. What's the old saying? If you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we've been quite frequently on the menu, and we don't need to be shy about who we are and what we do in dealing with APA leadership or dealing with the divisions. Even at the state level, when we were developing the military psychology section, the voices were very loud about, are you sure we want to go this way? Because military psychologists do torturing. And we actually did a town hall, and we had a lot of airing out of what I would call mistaken beliefs and misperceptions regarding some of what other people view as past sins. And I think one of our big selling points, of course, is the history of who we are as an organization. In many ways, it was because of military psychology that we now have a feel of clinical psychology. Certainly, when I was an undergraduate years ago, almost all of my faculty were veterans and recipients of training at the VA as well as of the GI Bill. And again, that's very much part of our history. I think we need to develop more of a role in terms of advocacy as well as getting involved in policy, both within the organization and externally. Example of that is the report that came out from DOD regarding suicide rates increased 20% in the year 2020. We should, when these things come up, develop a response, make recommendations, and to show that, in fact, we are advocating for expanded care, new programs, as well as having a voice at that table. So having a voice at the policy table, having a voice at the advocacy table, as well as being very aggressive in terms of interacting and dealing with other divisions. And wherever we have an opportunity to develop collaboration, to go ahead and do that, because that'll pay off in the long run. Again, it's all part of what we do best in terms of relationship building as well as education.
All right, thank you. Next question, Joe. If someone asked you what the value of Division 19 membership includes, what would you tell them?
Well, I think in terms of when I first got interested in joining Division 19, the things that were really impressive were things like the newsletter, the journal, and meeting members of Division 19. They were welcoming and encouraging. And probably what was as important as I was getting students interested in military psychology, the reaching out of Division 19 membership to students at APA. I think one of the most exciting parts of being involved in Division 19 is attendance at the APA Division 19 meetings and events. It's just great to have that opportunity to meet those on the active duty side, the retired side, or civilians working within the division. And I find with my involvement in other divisions, I find the membership of the division very engaging. Also, the opportunity to learn with the various seminars and presentations, including the the regional research symposia. These are all opportunities to benefit, not only to get your CEs, but to learn about the various aspects and the various things that Division 19 is doing. Again, capturing some of that excitement that I had in attending some of the earlier events when I first became engaged, which was about 5 or 6 years ago. It's a great opportunity to be mentored. It's a great opportunity to develop lifelong relationships, including working relationships. And what a great opportunity in terms of getting involved and getting engaged in various aspects of the organization, being your interest in being advocacy, being research, or responding to a specific challenge, as what was brought up with COVID-19, as well as the current conflict in Yugoslavia, and being able to reach out to our colleagues overseas and provide that support. And that was done in a quick turnaround fashion, which was definitely exciting.
Thank you. Bill, if someone asks you what the value of Division 19 membership includes, what would you tell them?
Interestingly, I just wrote a blog about this very topic that will come out on the CDP website next month. So I've been giving this some thought. So here's the elevator speech version. Division 19 has just over 1,200 members that represent military psychologists who serve diverse functions in a wide range of settings, including research, leadership, clinical care, teaching, consulting, assessment, selection. We have members who work with congressional committees and who advise senior military commands. If you're interested in military psychology, membership in the division provides the opportunity, as Joe said, to network with students and professional psychologists that are working in that field. Honestly, one of the biggest benefits to me is networking and collaborating with other military psychologists. We have continuing education opportunities. We host a research conference, an advocacy conference, and we also work closely with PsyOP, the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology. We have a lot of members that are Division 18 psychologists in public service as well, and other members and members of other divisions within APA. But we have the best APA meeting, as Joe was just saying, with outstanding opportunities to present, to engage socially with other members, to win prizes and collect glassware. I'm just kidding about that part. But we have we also have a large international network as well. And we work closely with IMTA, the International Military Testing Association, and we have opportunities to collaborate internationally. I'm presenting in a few months with one of our British military colleagues at a NATO summit talking about personalized medicine in the military. So there are a ton of unique opportunities, like being a kid in a candy store when you want to meet and collaborate with your colleagues. Kitsch wise, we, of course, you get the quarterly peer-reviewed journal, Military Psychology, which has a 5-year impact score of 1.65. We've been working really hard on that. And the Military Psychologist newsletter in order to keep you informed on all the latest within the division. You have the ability to apply for research awards and travel grants. We have great ways to find active opportunities to get involved in the community. And we also provide frequent job postings in the field. And best of all, we're not a huge organization. So you have an outsized impact in your engagement, and you can play a direct role in what military psychology looks like for the coming decades. Oh, and first year is free, and you don't have to be an APA member.
All right, thank you. So that concluded our specific questions for the candidates. And now we have a final chance. Bill, you're first to provide any final comments that you'd like to make.
All right. Well, I appreciate this opportunity to share my thoughts with you all. I've really enjoyed talking with many of you over the last month and all of the time that you guys made to talk to me about your ideas and about your goals for the division. I look forward to having the chance to continue working together towards the goals, regardless of the outcome of the election. And I'd like to say many thanks to Bruce and the XCOM for making this town hall happen. And of course, to Joe for his contributions to the division as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Joe, are there any final comments you would like to make?
No, again, I appreciate having an opportunity to share some of my thoughts and some of my visions at this town hall. Again, I can't emphasize the exciting changes that are going on within the division. And coming in as a president, I would see my role of supporting these initiatives and these efforts. Depending, no matter what the outcome of the election is, there's some things that I'm looking forward to continuing to be engaged with and involved with, and especially the area of advocacy and being a player at the policy table. But yeah, a lot of good, exciting things are happening, and I could feel the energy. And over the last couple of years, I've seen Division 19 really emerge on its own. And as we say in the Navy, it's really gotten its sea legs despite the adversity that's been out there from our colleagues, APA, and to some extent the general public.
Thank you, Joe. I would like to thank both of our excellent candidates for their willingness to serve the members of Division 19 and for their willingness to communicate their views at this town hall. This video will be available throughout the election window, and you are encouraged to share it with your fellow Division 19 voters. Thank you again to the candidates and to the team who helped prepare this video. And thank you to Division 19 members who shaped the future of our division through our elections. Out here.